Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Doug Lamarice and Bill Landis. We just got done talking with Ryan Day on Sunday afternoon. Bill, Ohio State in the playoff as the 2 seed, but if you guys missed it, we did a live react to the bracket, to the fact that Ohio State is playing in the Cotton Bowl against the Miami Texas winner.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. They're playing Texas. They could play Texas and Texas A&M the same year. Well, Texas has played Texas A&M and Ohio State. Will they call Ohio State and give them a scouting report on Texas A&M because they hate Texas A&M so much?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. Ryan Day and Steve Sarkisian tight. How about Ohio State with an opportunity to play Texas, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech?
Wow.
All in the same year.
The stars are bright. We are going to talk about Ohio State football, though, because we just got done talking with Ryan Day, and it's one of those where it was even live streamed, or it was like a Zoom call or whatever that's supposed to be also, I think, for the Cotton Bowl, and there was maybe like one TV question at the end about like what's your Tex-Mex platter going to look like, but it was mostly ball talk about what happened on Saturday night in Indianapolis, which I think Ryan Day said he barely slept and he was up rewatching the game. So we kind of had Ryan Day's second look about what happened. And I think we tried to ask as many specific questions about the football as it relates to moving forward as we could, including you drilling down and saying to Ryan Day, what?
Who called plays on Friday night and who will call plays on December 31st when Ohio State is on the field again? And the answer was Brian Hartline. The answer was sort of like what we've been doing. And that is, I think, at times been a bit of a moving target this year. So like I don't necessarily take that as gospel, and Ryan Day has 20-something days here to change his mind on that, certainly if he wants to. But I don't know when we're going to talk to him again. It's possible we don't talk to him again until we're in Dallas. So I wanted to kind of get that out there just to see what he said. So it's one of those things where like it's good to have him on the record. I think I'd be lying if I said I 100% believed him in terms of what's going to happen moving forward. But he did say that last night that Brian Hartline was calling the plays and that it is a, quote, group effort.
Consternation, confusion, curiosity about who is calling plays is nothing new.
Nope.
We want to know it. Fans want to know it. We get it. And the answer is always they like to keep it a little bit hidden. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on the headset together. It is collaborative. Even if you have an OC who's a play caller, the head coach can always override things because he's the boss. Right. He can say, I want to do this. Now you pick one of the three type of plays that fit this plan. Here's it within the answer to your question. I thought this was interesting. Ryan Day said that Brian Hartline will be in Florida this coming week. He said a week.
He's being introduced tomorrow. Monday, I think at 11 a.m. he's being introduced.
But he did not say that Brian Hartline is going to South Florida, to the Tampa area, to be introduced on Monday, and then he'll be back.
Yeah, all this week. Yeah,
all this week. And Ryan Day said they're going to start game planning this week without Brian Hartline. But then he will come back and they will integrate him into that game planning. They're going to lay the foundation here of how they are.
Are they? Because they don't know who they're playing.
They don't know who they're playing, but they know what they think they do best. They're going to get a self-scout. They're going to reevaluate. What do we do best, not do best? What do we want to improve on? What do we want to punt? What do we want to add? They will do that.
Yeah, I think
without the OC.
Yes, I think you can call it. I mean, it's all game planning, right? It all falls under the umbrella of game planning. I think this next week will be a little more inward facing, and then you do some prep work so that you're not waiting until December 20th to figure out who you're playing, and then you really start game planning in earnest. So they'll look at both teams and figure out some things, but they're not laying down the game plan for December 31st this week necessarily.
But they might be making decisions on, and we're going to get into this, the 13 and 14 tight end, 3 and 4 tight ends on the field personnel usage in Indianapolis. Ryan Day said here on Sunday that they did that strategically. It was part of their game plan because they thought it would be an advantage for them. You said you thought that means that they thought they could get down close, put in the tight ends, and push Indiana around.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that maybe deserves some further explanation. They're not standing on the sidelines talking to each other through the headsets with the ball on the 10 and going, I don't know, I guess let's put 3 tight ends out there. Those decisions are made on Sunday before they got to Indianapolis, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
And practiced on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And if they didn't think it was working in practice, they wouldn't do it.
Right. So that was their plan coming into the game. It just didn't work. But yeah, I think the idea was we're going to get big and move them around a little bit. And part of me does wonder, because that worked against Michigan. If they got lured into a little bit of a false sense of security, or perhaps the wrong idea of exactly what this tight end group is and what this offense is when they try to play with that personnel grouping, because they were just playing a much better defense in Indiana, better coached, I think better talent, better scheme, like all across, better in every way across the board. And it just didn't work the way they thought it was going to work. So but yes, I think those are the kind of conversations they're going to have sort of in the next week of like, okay, like sort of like who are we?
Who are we?
And what are we going to do? And what do we think is our best plan personnel scheme wise to get through this playoff and win another championship?
And you do have an opportunity. This is even different than a bye week. You have an opportunity to self-evaluate with a breath in a way that you do not have during a season. And so this is the thing that just makes me curious. It is not an unheard of situation. It is not a typical situation, though, to have a coordinator who is going to be gone for a week. Now, again, there's plenty of other teams who are dealing with it. Oregon's going to be dealing with it on both sides of the ball, for instance. But the idea that Ryan Day and Tyler Bowen and Carlos Lachlan and Keenan Bailey and Billy Fessler and everybody on the offensive staff are going to sit here for a week and say, who are we? What do we do best? What do we want to change? What do we want to accentuate? What do we want to throw out? And then Brian Hartline's going to back from Florida and be like, hey, what's our offense? And Ryan Day's going to be like, oh, here's the offense. Hey, get ready to call it. I don't know if I see that.
That's why I said I don't fully believe. My expectation is sort of that Ryan Day will be calling plays. Whether or not he expressly says that is another thing. It's just hard for me to see a world where like this dynamic works, especially when you have a head coach whose expertise is play calling. If Ryan Day were a defensive guy, it'd be a different thing. But because that is such a luxury, I guess I would say, for Ohio State at this point, I just have a hard time seeing like what has been status quo through last night, through Friday night or Saturday night, excuse me, being what they do the next time they're on the field.
Yeah, and I think we believe that may have happened to a greater degree, even if Brian Hartline wasn't leaving for a new job. Like as you've always said, Ryan Day gets more involved with play calling when he has more time in the postseason. And the whole thing of whenever I was saying in the past, or people thought in the past, Ryan Day needs to give up play calling. That's because you need to be the coach of the team and the culture when the bullets are flying during the season, right? And that's a lot of that is a Michigan discussion. Is your team in the right headspace to get ready for Michigan? If your team in the midst of a season after the Oregon loss last year and you need to make defensive adjustments, you can't have a head coach who's buried in the offensive meeting room all the time, right? That's when all that matters. I don't think he should be the play caller. But now he has time to be the play caller. Yeah. And that always changes a little bit. But he even said that. He even said here on Sunday, I have more time. And now you're also saying the guy's going to be in Florida for a week. It just accentuates what they would have moved toward anyway. But also there's no hurt feelings because Ryan Day can't come in and say, hey, Brian Hartline, I made you the OC. But by the way, I'm going to Bigfoot in the postseason. And you're not really you're the regular season OC. I'm the postseason OC.
Right.
You can't do that to one of the best assistant coaches in the country. You can do that to a guy who's leaving.
You can, yeah. And you maybe can't say it publicly, but you can do whatever you want behind the closed doors of the Woody. And once you're on the field in Dallas and no one knows any better what's happening anyway. So, I think that's what will happen. And for as much as like coaches complain about like the roster building calendar, I think it actually helps, right? Because recruiting's done. High school recruiting's done. And the portal doesn't open until January. And in theory, you can't talk to guys until then. But that's for Mark Pantoni and his staff anyway. Like I think there's a nice window here for Ryan Day to get really dialed in on this game plan for whoever they end up playing on the 31st. And then when that day comes, whether he's calling every single play, like I don't know, but I think he will have a heavier hand in game day management and play calling when that game comes to you.
You think about how much Ryan Day could focus on game planning and play calling between the Michigan game and the Indiana game. And how much he can focus on game planning and play calling between the Indiana game and the Cotton Bowl, and it's 20-fold.
It is, and I also think like you can say like, okay, well that's all well and good. What about the other side of the Cotton Bowl? Because it's about a normal lead-in, right? It's like 8 or 9 days, I think, between games there. But I think there's something about sort of like establishing a baseline over these next 3 weeks too that you can just like sort of fall back on once you're into quicker turnarounds in the semifinals and the national championship. So yes, like the lead in is different. It's not 3 weeks once you get past the Cotton Bowl, but I do think there's something gained from these 3 weeks that'll still help them and help them last year too when the turnarounds became shorter. So like I wouldn't worry about that necessarily. I guess is what I'm saying. Like it's not it's not the window only exists for this particular game kind of thing. Like there's a way to like pocket that and build off of it once you get past the Cotton Bowl.
I do think this is an issue of frustration and curiosity for Ohio State fans. I think our conclusion is there is not going to be a public announcement that will soothe all of your questions and concerns about it. But we think that in actuality, the way it is going to work with game planning and play calling, fans may actually be pretty happy with how that works out, because it will be more Ryan Day, perhaps significantly more Ryan Day. And if there is any frustration with Brian Hartline, he's not going anywhere. But Ryan Day is going to have his hands all over this.
Yes. Yeah. I think, and think about how they came out like guns a-blazing against Oregon, right? That was the byproduct of that. Now, this is different because even last year, they knew they were playing Tennessee and they knew they were playing Oregon if they won. Like they are getting ready for two opponents and are only going to have, I guess they'll still have about a week and a half once that Texas A&M Miami game gets played. So that's a lot of time to get ready for an opponent. You don't want to give them too much benefit of the doubt, I guess. I do think there's a little bit of proof of concept here with what they were able to do last year once Ryan Day got more involved.
Yes.
And that is the same plan this time around.
And again, it's not an automatic fix, because there are plenty of Ohio State fans who get frustrated with Ryan Day's play calling too.
Of course,
so we understand that, but
he's always had, like we were saying this on our drive back from Indy, right? Like I know Ryan Day's like win-loss record is not sterling in like playoff semifinals, bowl games when he's had extra time to prepare. But if you remove like the 2023 Cotton Bowl, which was a mess from the equation, like his teams play pretty well, and like when they have that kind of long layoff into a game. So I would, and they have like a pretty sound offensive plan to attack whoever it is they're playing, and I would expect the same this time around.
So we were sort of curious about some of the personnel decisions, particularly as it relates to all the tight ends that played in those packages, just to double check for people. 57 offensive snaps against Indiana. Jeremiah Smith did play 53 of 57, so he basically played the whole game. Carnell Tate played 41 of 57. Brandon Innes did not really play a ton. He only played 21 of 57. And then when you look at the tight ends, Will Kazmarek played 45, Max Clare played 35, Bennett Christian played 23. So three tight ends played more snaps than the slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Day thought it's two things here, because I want to talk about the tight end personnel packages, but also then related to Carnell Tate. They thought there was an advantage with some of the heavier tight end looks, but he also did mention that, yes, they maybe when they can, they do want to take some snaps off those receivers. Although, as it worked out, they didn't with Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
It was only a Carnell Tate discussion in this one that they did not play him there's 16 snaps. Carnell Tate wasn't on the field.
Yeah, I think part of that's health. And what did he say about Carnell and Jeremiah, and if they were 100%? Was he asked that today? I think he was asked that today.
He said are they 100%? Yes.
They played 50, 60 snaps. Yes. But it was good that they didn't have to. I think is kind of how he couched it.
Yes. That he started to say an answer that was like, oh, maybe they weren't all the way there. But then he finished the answer by saying, but they were all the way there, but we don't want to do it, even though they could have. I thought was the answer in the end.
But is the acknowledgement of like, we didn't want to do it, even if they could have an acknowledgement of like, yeah, they're not 100%. He's just not going to say that.
Except also, but they didn't do that with Jeremiah. Jeremiah played the whole game.
Yeah.
But they did do it with Carnell.
Yeah. And he said they had stuff thrown out for Carnell that got covered and sort of taken away.
Because only 4 targets for Carnell.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to 10 for Jeremiah.
Yeah.
And is there something to that? And to that, he said, no, that's not game plan. That's not.
They didn't have him out there as a decoy. They were trying to get him the ball, and they felt like Indiana was taking some things away. And I think like what is interesting to me, and I think we said this in our preview, is that Indiana thinks its best version of its defense is when it plays 3 linebackers, as opposed to taking one of those linebackers off the field, which would be Isaiah Jones, who's very good. And having to play a nickel in his place. And Ohio State decided to deploy its offensive personnel in a way that allowed Indiana to play its preferred defensive personnel. Part of me wonders if like Brandon Innes has just like left games and come back, and he's a tough dude, and I'll give him credit for it. But like How many times have we seen him get hit, get up slowly, go to the sideline? Like, I wonder if he's a little banged up and maybe they couldn't play as much 11 personnel in this game as they wanted to, also because they don't trust their receiver depth, clearly. So maybe they had no other choice but to play as many tight ends as they did, but like it just didn't work the way they wanted it
to. For Indiana, 57 defensive snaps. Their 3 linebackers played the whole game.
Yeah.
Aiden Fisher, 54. Isaiah Jones, 53. Elijah Hardy, 51. They didn't leave the field.
Yeah.
So Ohio State did not. And again, this is just this situation where they just also they said they want to lean into tight ends. But if you are thinking in your head at all that we want to save a couple snaps on Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate, they don't have receiver options to do it. David Adolph played 1 snap. Bryson Rogers and Miley Graham didn't play. They don't have other people to put on the field. They didn't even play. They didn't play Brandon Ennis more than 25 snaps.
Yeah, they're a 2-receiver team, basically.
They're a 2-receiver team right now.
I think Brandon Ennis, made some big catches against Michigan. Made a couple of nice ones in those games when Carnell and Jeremiah weren't out there, but. Yeah, they look like a 2-receiver team right now.
We're trying to talk quieter because Ryan Day's standing right there. And we're like, and by the way, this is what we think's wrong with Ohio State. Or we're just shooting our shot here.
Yeah.
We're keeping it real?
I think we can talk about the team in an honest way. And
talk about the team
in
in an honest way.
With a lot of what we're saying.
This video would go through the roof if Ryan Day came over here and started wailing on us, though, right?
Just sat down behind us with a nice can of 7-Up. Didn't say anything.
My God. Yeah. We should do that. We should put Ryan Day's face on that guy's body. Okay, the end of the first half, which was something that a lot of our people, and if we're not in the heat of the moment here as much, so we don't mind promoting ourselves slightly a little bit more. The Bill and Doug Substack, we'd love to have you come join us here for this playoff run. BillandDougOSU.substack.com. Again, that is BillandDougOSU.substack.com. We know a bunch of you are already there, and we really appreciate it. But this was something that a lot of people had wondering about. People were wondering about who's calling plays. You asked about that. Mm-hmm. We try to ask what people care about. They were wondering about what was the decision-making at the end of the first half with that Ohio State did not come out and go super fast. And Ryan Day said that was a plan. He said they had 3 timeouts. They had 3 minutes and 20 seconds when they took the field there. And what they wanted to do was either end the half, as he always talks about the middle 8, last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. They wanted to either end with the ball in their hands or with scoring or kicking or points at the end there.
Yeah.
What they did not want to do, it certainly was on their mind. What they did not want to do was give the ball back to Indiana with time on the clock. And that was not something, as Ryan Day explained it, because I thought the thing that was interesting is Ryan Day, who's there standing right now. He's coming here next, by the way. Do we have a third mic?
We don't have
I'll get up.
We don't have a way to plug a third mic in.
I'll get up. Sometimes you got to
talk to me like Seymour.
We have to get a new box
just
for when the head coach comes on over. He explained it not from a point of – he explained it analytically. He said – and the thing that was interesting with Ryan Day today is that he said he was up and watched everything again, right? So he had a second look at everything, and it was fresh in his mind. Sometimes you talk to people, and it's like, well, I haven't even had time to – it's like, what did you think? And it's like, I don't know. I haven't seen anything yet.
Right.
He had evaluated that. So he was not second-guessing that. But his point was we can't convert third downs. And so what we needed to do there was convert third down. So they converted 1 third down on an 11-yard pass to Carnell Tate.
That was first down.
Well, excuse me. They got a first down. Right. You've got to get a first down. So they did get 1 first down. But then they got sack, and then failed on third down.
Mm-hmm.
But because they had not been pushing the clock, or because they had not been pushing the tempo, when they did give it back to Indiana didn't really have time to do anything. He did not second guess that, and he said analytically that they would say that's the correct way to handle that. Mm-hmm. What did you think of that response?
I think it makes sense. The thing about it that was most puzzling to me was to get that first down. I was like, okay, you're in a quasi 2-minute here, not really because you got the 3 timeouts and you have the 2-minute timeout, but you gotta. You're trying to do a very specific thing here in terms of clock and ending with points. I understand that, but to get 11 yards on first down and then just let it run down to the 2-minute timeout was the thing that was most puzzling to me. But he said they kind of wanted to get it to the 2-minute timeout because they still had 3 timeouts in their pocket and felt like they had enough time and good enough field position to kind of massage that the right way and get to where they wanted to get to. So I guess it's sound. It was just a little puzzling to me in the moment to see them let that much time run off the clock after that initial first down the Cardinal team.
Because I will say, we think it was 23 Michigan game where they were not aggressive.
End of the first half.
End of the first half. And then when we asked him about that after the fact there, he did say maybe that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then talking about things today, he was asked by Dylan Davis, for instance, about, do you wish you would use maybe a Lincoln Kienholz package? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, yeah, because like we work on that. And then what we didn't work. So then you think maybe we should have done that. So I do think he had reevaluated what happened in the game and was willing to second guess some of the things, basically by saying if it didn't work, of course, we would question it. But he didn't second guess that, right? No. And so because it wasn't the worst case scenario there is the offense doesn't work, you give the ball back, now Indiana scores. So what happened there was it was unsuccessful for Ohio State in a 2-minute drill. That's not good. They want to win the middle 8. But it wasn't disastrous. It didn't completely flip the game that Indiana went in with momentum.
No, it didn't. And I guess that's the biggest thing. Like you want to control momentum there as much as you can, and even if you don't give it to yourself, at least you didn't give it to them. So that's the next best thing, I suppose, to not scoring. And I think you also you relitigate that end of half a little more because they didn't score on the other side of the break either, right? And that was far more disastrous. That's the drive where they got sacked twice and lost 19 yards. So, and you can't know that's going to happen. So, like, if you said to him, like, hey, by the way, you're going to come out on your first drive of the second half and run 4 plays and punt, or whatever it was, 5 plays and punt, he might say, like, okay, well, maybe we managed that drive before the half a little bit differently.
So it is. And again, he has talked about middle 8, as a lot of coaches do all season. Again, last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. Their drive to end the first half is 4 plays, 13 yards, 2 minutes and 22 seconds, and a punt. Their drive to open the second half is 5 plays, 11 yards, 3 minutes and 24 seconds, and a punt. And then when they punt it back to Indiana, Indiana goes on a 7-play, 88-yard touchdown drive. That is what gives them the lead.
Yeah.
Right. So that was he did reference that again, right? That middle 8's so important, and middle 8 did not go how they want it to go.
No, and it often does. They've been a pretty good middle 8 team all year. They just weren't against Indiana. And it felt like we can say, like, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? And I'm not saying like you should, but I think honestly, like what it comes down to in Ryan Day's mind, which is sort of what he said, it's like when we play well, we're good enough to beat anybody. And when we don't play well, there are teams out there who are good enough to beat us. And they happen to be playing one of them on Saturday night.
10 units, he said. When all 10 units are operating, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Handling the kicking situation. And again, it can be a dangerous, people ask questions in different way. I did think the way he was asked about the kicking situation, it was like, what are you going to do to still have confidence in him? It was like trying to and it's like, well, it's harder to give an honest answer. But even within that, I thought he gave an answer that was honest and was not just like, it'll be fine.
He's got to do it. Everyone on the team has a job to do, and Jaden Fielding has to do his. And in big moments, he hasn't done it.
Which then means, so are you going to ask him to do that job again in a big moment? And I think that is in question right now. I don't know what that means in terms of, we have talked about, there is a Ball State transfer who made a 50-plus game-winning yard field goal for Ball State last year against Northern Illinois, who is a preferred walk-on here, but is in the building. I don't know that means that's what's up, but I don't think a lot of times, because you have to express enough confidence that if you're in a situation, the guy can't go out there, especially a kicker, can't go out there and be like, oh, God. Remember when the coach said,
nobody believes in me. I guess I'll toe it up.
God, I hope enough to kick a field goal to win. Yeah. That would be you can't. But I think there's some honesty being expressed here that I think, again, if they're for a frustration for Ohio State fans, I don't know what the answer communicated today was like, we'll keep doing the same thing. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
I don't think that's where it is.
And it wasn't like sometimes it doesn't go your way, but we have the utmost confidence in our guy.
Yeah, because that's realistic.
Yeah, no, I know.
So I think that is a realistic situation. And I do think one of the last things here, and this is I'm Mr. Chuck It Around, right? He basically thought they didn't run it enough, which you were talking about after the game, but he reinforced that just the number of dropbacks versus the number of handoffs to the running back, he thought they were imbalanced.
Yeah, so there were 5. They ended up with 30 pass attempts, one by Brandon Ennis. That's a drop back. So 5 sacks, 35 dropbacks. 3 of those, I think, were the last like Hail Mary situation.
Okay.
So like, of course, you can throw it there. So it's more like 32 dropbacks to 20 rushes. Yeah, that's probably not where they want to be. It's interesting to me. Like he said, like we never really felt like we got the run game going. Can you do me a favor? Go to comparison on there.
Yep.
And then go to advanced stats. I
Yep.
want to see what their rushing success rate was. 52% rushing success rate for Ohio State. Indiana's was 35. I didn't, they weren't lining it up and running down their throat every play, but I actually thought, sort of outside of the situations, which obviously are the most important, they were running it pretty well. But he said like we never got the run game going. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily.
Do your job stat. Like is that rushing play accomplishing the goal on that play on first down, on second down in this yardage, on third down in this yardage?
It's like are you getting I think it's 4 on first, half of what you need on second, and then the first down on third.
Yep.
Yeah. And they were at 52%, which is like, it's pretty good, especially against a defense like that. I wonder how many teams Indiana's played all year that had a rushing success rate above 50%. I'd imagine not many, if any. And I thought Bo Jackson ran well. So, it all comes back to they probably should have ran it more, and he seemed to agree with that. But he also said they should have ran it better, and I don't disagree with that either. Like clearly, yes. And I think when he's saying that, he's talking more situations than he is overall. But like sort of like between the 20s, they did run it pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, he was sort of bemoaning the fact that they had a couple where he thought they blocked it up well, and then it's on the back, like make one guy miss, run through one tackle, and they didn't do that. And then he said there were times when they didn't block it up.
Yeah.
So which is when your run game doesn't work, that's what it is. And you could see, you were looking at a photo today of like one of the plays where it felt like Bo Jackson was through the hole and maybe gone.
Yeah.
And the guy like got a backhand grab.
Was like falling past him, and with his only free hand, like grabbed his thigh and spun him around in a way that got him down.
But like with a backhand that you don't normally see on like tackling form, but you got to do what you got to do. He also said like anger should be a motivator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to read the money quote, I think, about like what they want to be moving forward. To be at maximum speed, effort, and violence, and really peaking at the end of the month. And reference several times maintaining their edge. And he thinks, at least in some part, the anger of losing that game the way that they did can fuel that.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that.
I do think, I think it's hard in the end. We've had some people say like, see, this is what happens when like you don't try hard or whatever in the last month against those lesser teams, but like their receivers were all hurt and they were trying to deal with that. And they didn't just roll over and win 20-11 in those games.
Well, they dominated every game.
I don't think they lost because, and we were even talking with people here. Was this a symptom of like they weren't tested enough during the year, right? That just when you saw the way the schedule shook out and once Penn State wasn't going to be good, like I don't think that's the deal either. I don't think that, to me, what happened on Saturday night was not the result of like a season-long convergence of not enough competition, them taking their foot off the pedal, them getting a big head about being the undefeated number 1 team in the country when they're actually not getting pushed at all. I think it is more specific about everybody's dealing with it, but a weird week and a good opponent in a tough spot and red zone stuff, right? And then like the lingering issues of the things that have kind of been bothering them all year. But like as he was saying in there, listen, like for all the things that happened, if we make those 2 red zone trips that we talked about on the live show last night, 2 long marches at the end. One is ended by a 4th and 1 sneak that falls short. One is ended by a missed 27-yard field goal. If you get 1 field goal there out of those 2 trips, you're in overtime. If you get 2 field goals there out of those 2 trips, you're ahead. If you get 1 touchdown there, you're ahead. And then he said, if you get 2 touchdowns there, it's 24-13, and people are like, man, like Ohio State really kind of came back and handled their business against Indiana. And that is, it's not excuse making, because they didn't do it. But my point is, I think there's a specificity to the failures as opposed to a vagueness and generality to the failures that would lead you to believe like, this team got soft because their schedule wasn't good, right?
Yeah.
It was like a screwy week. The red zone stuff that had kind of been a bugaboo for them all year cropped up, not surprisingly, but cropped up. And the opponent was really good. And like, I think those are the three things, not they were cruising for a bruising because nobody's challenged them since August.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would add to that is like, if they had not, and we said this last night, I'm repeating myself a little bit, I guess, had they not immediately upon going down in the second half for the first time all year, driven at 70 yards and 81 yards against what might be the best defense in the country, I would feel kind of like how you were describing before of like maybe we've been wrong about this team, and it was just a matter of when they got dragged into deep water, would they be able to respond? And no, they can't. But they kind of did. They just didn't finish the drives. And not finishing the drives is not new. They're at 67% red zone touchdown percentage for the season. That's not where they want to be. They have been better of late.
He says they want to be at 75,
right?
At
75. It's a high bar, yeah. But this was not the first game that Ohio State's had red zone issues. They just mattered more in this one.
Yeah. Okay. That was what we got from Ryan Day. As we spoke to him here on Sunday in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, Ohio State is going to start game planning for the Cotton Bowl. It is, of those 4 quarterfinals, there is 1 game on New Year's Eve, and there are 3 games on New Year's Day. Mm-hmm. Ohio State will be the 1 game on New Year's Eve. And as people know, their Georgia semifinal loss 3 seasons ago was on New Year's Eve. So all eyes will be on them. We will continue to talk, write, pod, YouTube show about this team until this thing is over. If you want to join us on Substack, Bill and Doug Oishoot at substack.com. But certainly we appreciate everybody here who is part of this audience. Any final words about what the vibes we got, the words we heard from Ryan Day on Sunday?
I think just like very, very different from where this team was last year, right? I think that there's an urge. I'm not saying it's off base to compare losing before going to the playoff last year to losing before going into the playoff this year. I think they're in a very different headspace. I think they're still confident. They're mad they didn't play their best against Indiana, but they feel like their best can get them another championship. And there's not like a whole lot of soul searching going on. It's just like they got to play better. And I think that puts them in a much different position than they were a year ago.
I think, and we have often referenced this, like low points, right? Like low points. I think that the 2 low points here of the Ryan Day era would be on signing day in 2022 after they had lost to Michigan, and then it felt like on National Signing Day when they did not get Caleb Downs. Is there something here going on with NIL that is a problem that we're not sure how to solve? And then last year after the Michigan loss, it's 4 straight. Is there something going on here? Is there a fundamental ingrained issue with Ohio State that we don't know how to solve? And it's a Michigan issue, but it maybe had leaked over into a big game issue, right?
Yep.
I don't think there's anything from Saturday night that would lead you to there's something ingrained and fundamental here that Ohio State is thinking to itself today, we don't know how to solve this. And that's the difference you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, there's the wild card of what's going on with their offensive coordinator. I guess that's different than last year. But aside from that, and I just, we'll see. I think they're equipped to manage that as best, as well as you can possibly expect a team to manage it. So they're in a different spot, and I don't think you look at the bracket and get scared of anything that, especially on the way to the national championship. And then we'll see if they can do it again. Yeah.
Yep. Georgia, Alabama in the 2021 season. Georgia was the undefeated number 1 team the entire year. Lost to Georgia in the SEC title game. Rematch in the national championship game in Indianapolis. 2 Southern teams coming north, and Georgia won the rematch.
No. You said Georgia every time.
Sorry.
So
3, 2, 1. 2021, Georgia is the undefeated number 1 team in the country. Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC title game. Both teams make the national championship game in Indianapolis. Georgia wins the rematch.
Got it.
The number 1 undefeated team lost in the conference championship game, met that team again in the Natty and won. Ohio State, Indiana. Ohio State's undefeated, number 1 all year. They lose to Indiana. The idea that these teams could rematch this time in the southern part of the country in Miami, not SEC country necessarily, certainly on the table. But certainly not the first time we've seen a thing like this happen, right? And so opportunity, no guarantees, but opportunity ahead for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Maurice. We're very grateful that you guys allow us to hang out with you and talk a little football. We'll have a bunch of coverage this week. You going to Florida this week, or are you going to be here?
Not going to Florida, no.
We got to go do our Heisman votes.
We do.
And we'll continue to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes for now. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Maurice. And that was the Bill and Doug Show.